Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Rena Sardanopoulos. New today, a former Wisconsin elementary school teacher is facing up to 12 years in prison after pleading guilty to having an inappropriate relationship with a fifth grade student. Today, Madison Bergman pleaded guilty to 1 count of child enticement and 2 counts of sexual misconduct by a school staff member. It's part of a plea deal. In return, she will get no more than 12 years in prison. Bergman will be sentenced in December. New this afternoon, everyone is now accounted for after a deadly mass shooting and fire at a Michigan church on Sunday. The violence starting just as worship was getting underway Sunday at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc. It's about 60 miles north of Detroit. At least 4 people died, 8 more were injured after a gunman rammed a vehicle through the church entrance, began shooting, then set the building on fire. Michael Yoshida is in Michigan with those details.
The search for answers continues here in Grand Blanc, Michigan, following the deadly shooting and fire at a church. We're told hundreds were gathered inside the church for a Sunday morning service when gunfire erupted.
What we know is that people who were just trying to pray at church were killed in their house of worship, a place that should be a sanctuary and safe.
As horror and chaos erupted around them, worshipers at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan, dove into action to protect each other.
Hundreds of people just practicing their faith, just extreme courage, brave, and that's the type of community that we are.
Shortly after 10 a.m. Sunday, a gunman rammed his pickup truck into the front of the church, set it on fire, then shot at congregants before dying in a shootout with police. Police say the 40-year-old gunman was an Iraq War veteran from a nearby town and used an assault rifle in the attack. Video from the scene showed 2 large American flags displayed from the back of his smoldering truck.
I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know if we were going to have to get down because we couldn't see anybody to worship my Savior Jesus Christ, and I didn't expect this to happen, of course, and I've lost friends in there.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
And some of my little primary children that I teach on Sundays.
The building has been declared a total loss from the blaze. The FBI has taken over the investigation.
I can confirm at this time that the FBI is now leading the investigation and is investigating this as an act of targeted violence.
And we're told that investigators have been executing search warrants at several homes and residences associated with the suspected shooter. They're also going through his devices and digital footprint as they try and piece together a potential motive for this violence. Also know that search teams are returning to the scene as they continue their efforts to go through what's left of the church. Reporting in Grand Blanc, Michigan, I'm Michael Yoshida.
Along with the Michigan tragedy, police are investigating at least 3 other mass shootings that were reported across the country since Friday. New Orleans police are searching for 4 people in connection with a shooting Friday in the French Quarter that killed 1 woman and injured 3 others. Saturday night in Southport, North Carolina, 3 people were killed and 5 others hurt after a waterfront bar shooting. And early yesterday morning, a mass shooting at the Lucky Eagle Casino in Eagle Pass, Texas, killing 2 people and injuring several others. That suspect was caught some 200 miles away. Well, right now here at home, neighbors in the Loring Park community of Minneapolis are expressing their concern over growing violence in the area. Just 2 days ago, 2 men died after a fight escalated to a shooting inside the Shoreline Plaza apartment building. Prior to Saturday's shooting, there have been 8 gunshot wound victims in Loring Park this year, compared to 4 last year. That's according to the Minneapolis Crime Dashboard. MPD has also received 84 shots fired calls in that area this year, compared to 68 in all of 2024.
I've been around here almost 17 years. I have never seen the type of violence that's going on here.
It's got to stop by the grace of God. This got to stop. You know, everybody wants to use a gun to fight, or they want to argue, you know, and then next thing you know, your life is gone.
As for the suspect in Saturday's shooting, they were arrested at the scene without incident. This weekend, the Annunciation Church community marking 1 month since the mass shooting at their place of worship. The community coming together for a prayer service to remember the victims. Around the same time, crowds also gathered at the state capitol to rally for action on gun violence. Our Joe McCoy was at both gatherings.
Come live in the light.
1 month ago, darkness tried to drown out the light that radiates from Annunciation Catholic School.
And we are called to be the light Remembering what happened, but not being defined by what happened.
This morning, Annunciation's principal, Matthew DeBoer, led a prayer service on the church's lawn.
We're here to stand, to sing, to live.
He says the school community refuses to live in fear and will not let the lights of Harper Moisky and Fletcher Merkel be dimmed.
And it's through building meaningful and loving relationships that we can create the world that Harper and Fletcher believed in. Shine with the joy and the love.
Leaning on one another as they learn to feel safe once again.
May we continue to prioritize our healing and let our light shine for all to see.
Across the river,
call a special session now. Our children's lives depend on it.
People gathered at the state capitol demanding a statewide ban on assault weapons.
People are afraid for their children, and they're determined to stop this.
A month ago, my 6-year-old son, David, was shot at school.
Brittany Haig nearly lost her son in the Annunciation shooting and has been pleading with legislators ever since to enact an assault weapons ban.
Prayers in place of action, when you have the power to act, are a betrayal of prayer itself.
Individuals being the light in whatever way they see fit as they continue to cope with the darkness that entered our community.
We are a small but mighty and stubborn community here. So let's continue to move our feet and make the change we want to see and be the light.
In Minneapolis, Joe McCoy, KARE 11 News.
Switching topics now, a heads up for Minneapolis drivers happening this week. The city is turning on its speed cameras for the very first time. Now take a look at the map. There are 5 locations where those cameras will be located. You can see them there. They include 3rd Street near 1st Avenue and Nicollet Avenue near 46th Street. These are areas that the city has had several issues with speeding and are near or within 2,000 feet of a school. So for the first month, only warnings will be issued. After that, though, it will be a $40 ticket for driving 10 miles over the speed limit, double that for more than 20 over. Now, violations will not go on a driver's record. The city says it does plan to add more cameras to this program next year. Today, President Trump meeting the top 4 congressional leaders as we approach the midnight Tuesday deadline before a potential government shutdown.
The president wants to keep the government open. He wants to keep the government funded. There is zero good reason for Democrats to vote against this clean continuing resolution. They voted for this exact same bill 13 times in the past. We want to keep the funding for our military, for our veterans, for our women and our children in this country continuing. We want the government to stay open. The president is giving Democrats one last chance to be reasonable today.
House Republicans already passed a short-term spending bill, but it does need approval from some Democrats. Democrats, however, point fingers at Republicans, accusing them of failing to negotiate an extension of health care subsidies that are expiring at the end of the year, a demand they say is crucial to get the bill to the president's desk.
Our health care situation is a shambles, in good part because of what the Republicans did in the BBB, their so-called big, beautiful bill. People are losing their jobs. Rural hospitals are closing. People are going to get notices of $4,000 a year increase in their premiums. So our job is to represent the people of America. So far, they've stonewalled and said, we're not discussing any of that.
The White House is already alerting that federal layoffs are coming if the government shuts down. In an interview with NBC News, President Trump said, quote, "We are going to cut a lot of people, and that would be on a permanent basis." Democrats, however, say it is simply a scare tactic.
They're doing it anyway. There's no shutdown. They're laying off all these people.
It's a burden that can easily be avoided if the Democrats would just apply common sense and do the right thing.
In case of a government shutdown, officials say nearly 1,500 of the 1,700 employees in the Department of Education would be furloughed, halting the work at the Office of Federal Student Aid and putting a stop to the review of civil rights complaints and issuance of new grants. In addition to federal employees, essential workers like air traffic controllers and TSA agents would be ordered to work without pay if the government shuts down. Also today, President Trump welcoming Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu. The meeting comes as the president is pushing for Netanyahu to agree to a 21-point peace plan to end the war in Gaza. Israeli officials say the prime minister is skeptical of the White House's ceasefire and post-war governance plan. The meeting comes only a week after several U.S. allies, including the UK, Canada, and Australia, recognize Palestine as a state, despite the U.S. and Israel's opposition. Coastal states bracing for the impact of Hurricane Umberto and Tropical Storm Imelda. They are expected to produce life-threatening rip currents and some heavy rainfall. As of this morning, both North and South Carolina have declared a state of emergency. A tropical storm watch has also been issued for the east coast of central Florida. NBC's Jesse Kirsch has more.
This morning, Tropical Storm Imelda is expected to reach hurricane strength. The storm already blowing through the Bahamas as coastal communities from Florida to the Carolinas spent the weekend getting ready for Imelda's worst.
We've got the water at the house and plenty of canned goods, so it should be okay. We'll ride out the storm like we always have.
But thanks to Hurricane Umberto's pull, forecasters are predicting Imelda will not make landfall in the U.S.
You're still not taking chances?
No. Might as well take precautions, you know.
The storm is expected to hook out to sea, but could still potentially bring flooding downpours and rip currents to the East Coast. Officials in places like Isle of Palm, South Carolina, concerned.
Our beach has been impacted pretty greatly over the last couple of years during hurricane season. So we have a lot of beach erosion and flooding.
And you don't need landfall for that to still be a concern?
Absolutely not.
In Florida's Daytona Beach area, they're anticipating 6 to 10 foot waves.
This is not the week to go swimming at the beach.
No, absolutely not. As the rip currents are extremely dangerous right now, as much as we hate to say it, our recommendation is to stay out of the water right now.
While the East Coast watches Imelda closely, parts of Arizona are recovering from catastrophic flooding that killed at least 3 people over the weekend.
Flood came through our shop. We lost everything.
Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.